Alrighty, folks, we have another edition of Musicians on Couches Drinking Coffee. A little side note. So I wasn't going to do this part of it today. I was going to do some errands and run around, but it's May 28th, and outside right now here in Michigan, it's 45 degrees. Where the hell am I? My God in heaven. Alright, enough of the complaining. That's all I ever do is complain. At least that's what my cat tells me. Now if I owned a cat, that'd be really different. Anyway, today's special guest is, he's played with so many people, and so many people who've played with other people. Currently, he's now currently working on a project with Hewitt, and One Nation is the name of the project. And Alan Hewitt is another guy who's involved in that classic of classic prog rock bands, Moody Blues. You know, as I had to do this interview, I went to the used vinyl shop where I love to go, Dearborn Music, if they want to sponsor my channel. And I purchased some more vinyl of Moody Blues, and I just forget how many hits they've had, how many great tunes were written. And right now, when they tour, and I think they'll be touring a little bit at the end of the year, their guitarist, who is a brilliant guitar player. He is a brilliant guitar shredder. He is a songwriter. He is a singer. He does it all. His name is Duffy King. And I love when I do interviews with guys that I never actually met. Although I knew who he was and is, and he knew me through Facebook, and he's worked with people that I've worked with, and I've worked with people that he's worked with, and I don't think we've ever actually worked together. Maybe on one disc right now. I don't know. I'm not sure. But anyway, we had a great time because we have a similar sense of humor, and I think it's the funniest one I've ever done. I hope you dig it, man. No further ado, it runs about an hour and 3 minutes. Go get the wife, go get the cat, go get the dog, make the popcorn, and enjoy this. Put this up on the smart TV, or if you like me, my TV actually just got its GED, so it never really graduated high school. So I was a little upset when Samsung sold me that. But regardless, I can still watch this on my smart TV, well, getting smarter TV. All right, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Musicians on Couches Drinking Coffee presents Duffy King. Mr. Duffy King. I need it. So we welcome you today to Musicians on Couches Drinking Coffee. However, I do have a cup of tea, so it's a little different.
Everything look good? Good for you?
Yeah, we'll fix it in post. I
don't know what you can do with me.
So you're just back from Arizona, is this correct?
I got in at 9:30 last night up to our place up here on Burt Lake, yeah.
Oh, man. So I have my official, by the way, Spider-Man clipboard. You can see the webbing back there. Official. Got it from Walmart. Very important. Not a lot. There's a lot of hosts out there, but none of them actually have a Spider-Man clipboard.
Well, yeah, there you go. You're separating yourself.
Yeah, Jimmy Kimmel does not have one of these.
Spider-Man does whatever a spider can.
So I don't want to hear nothing.
So I've been to Arizona several times on a bunch of tours, and I like it there actually. When did you branch out? Were you always in Michigan, and then at some point you moved down there, or what? How'd that go?
Yeah, my wife got a job offer there in 2011, and so we actually moved there from the Detroit area, and we were there for 5 years, and we sold our house while we were there, but we kept our place up here on Burt Lake. So when it was time in 2016, we moved back. Late 2015, we ended up back in northern Michigan for a while at our place, and then she ended up getting a job downtown Detroit with GM, and so then we moved back to the Detroit area, but we kept a place in Arizona in the North Scottsdale area. We kept a place there, so now we're kind of doing the back and forth as it works out. Now with the pandemic thing, I wasn't gigging here,
Right.
And her job, she's been working from home since it all started, last March 15th.
What does she do? What does she do?
She's a IT governance, data governance for.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Whenever I date, I'm still unmarried. Well, I was married, but I'm not anymore. Whenever I date like somebody doing anything medical or with the government, I was saying, you do actually important things.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so
I balance rhythm. That's what I do.
So we figured, we might as well go out to we hadn't been to our place in over a year and a half because of the pandemic and scheduling. So we said, well, nothing was happening. There's no tours. There's no gigs.
Yeah.
From home. So I went out there, and spent a few months in the winter.
Yeah. I got, my time that I spent in Arizona, my favorite city became Flagstaff.
Oh, that's a cool place.
Yeah. Well, I thought it was very young, and Phoenix was a little too hot.
Yeah.
At Flagstaff, you had the mountains, so it kind of cooled you down a little, but you still had the warmth. So I kind of dug that a little bit. Anyway, I don't know, a couple of different tours. One of them being a actual super happy fun time burlesque theater group I toured with down there.
That's theater.
Yeah. Greg Nagy, as you know him.
Yes, I do.
I've done every gig that there is to do. It doesn't matter, cruise ships. I've done every gig there is to do. And when you've been on a bus with 18 strippers, that's a gig and a half. All right. And it was charted. The music was charted out, and you played it, and it was fun. I had a great time, but it was an interesting bus ride. It was. Very, very few can put that on their resume. Very few. It's right. It's along with the Spider-Man clip.
You keep going up a notch over everybody, man.
Yeah. That's why Springsteen is interested right now. He heard about that. So anyway, I was doing some research on you because I'm that proficient, and so there's a Grammy in your history.
Nominations. Yeah. I played on some nominated stuff.
For what actually? For your solo stuff or for?
Well, that made it through the first cut, and the actual one that made it to the nomination was a gospel group out of Detroit called Witness.
Oh.
That I played on. Yeah, and they and that made it to the final nominations.
That's cool. Is that the only nomination?
Yeah, as far as I know. It's funny. In fact, there's I do so many sessions. Sometimes there's a lot I don't even get the records. I've got all kinds of records out there that I've played on. I've never received a copy. Never even heard it.
Oh yeah. I've oddly enough, I've been on several different discs of people, some famous, some semi-famous. Even Drew Abbott, I got to be on his disc, his last thing. And there's when I was touring with Dick Wagner, before he died, we were working on his new album, but it never got released. And there was a session somewhere. I just think this is really, and maybe in Arizona actually, because that's where with his wife or whatever, of me and a bass player with Nils Lofgren.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but he wasn't in the room with us. He had done the scratch guitar, and then when we were on tour, Dick brought the tracks to Michigan. We went to a studio and I recorded the drum track and the bass line. And I keep thinking there is a disc somewhere.
Somewhere with you.
Me with Nils.
With Nils.
Which gets me one degree closer to Springsteen. 1 degree. Max better watch out. You know, so
Nils lives in the Phoenix area.
Yeah. And I think he used to do a lot of writing with Dick.
Yeah.
And they had written I don't know, a bunch of tunes, and me and the bass player played on them. And then, like, literally after we finished those sessions, about 4 weeks later, he passed away.
Wow.
So, or 5 weeks. So it was like, okay. And I really dug playing with him, and he was a great, really cool guy. Had you ever met Dick?
Yes, absolutely. I went to, do you know Joe Bass?
Huh?
Yeah. Joe and I were both living in Phoenix at the time. I went out, and then Joe came out and liked it, moved out there too, when we were gigging together and stuff. At any rate, so we hooked up with Dick when he was out there, and then we ended up going to Dick got us passes for Trans-Siberian Orchestra, because he knew his name escapes me now. The guy who Al Petrelli, I think, the guitar player Al Petrelli. I think that's who he knew him and that, and so yeah, we all met up at the arena there for Trans-Siberian Orchestra.
Well, obviously, it was sad when Dick died, and then every once in a while I think about that tune. But just in case you happen to run into Nils, remind him to finish those tunes when you're in Arizona. All right, because man, then I could say I'm really 1 degree away from Springsteen. Because you know, I grew up in New York, right? I grew up in the Bronx.
Sound like it.
Yeah, and that's where, and I used to play all those places, and but I was more of a theater guy. You know, I was a chart reader. So I ended up doing Godspell early on and on the East Coast with that stuff. Give me the book and I'll read it. Anyway, let's move along here. You've been with so many different people. I was looking at your not only discography but just performances.
Yeah.
White Snake, Lee Ritenour. That's incredible.
Well, actually, the way it's written up is a little. They pressed. You know, when you try to put press together, they're in parentheses. It's actually the people. So that would have been with Sonny Emery, who played right now. So there you go, 1 degree separation.
Right.
So the main names are, you know, and then the 1 degree separations would be in the parentheses of, you know, so the White Snake would have been, gosh, who would that have been? Well, I lose track of so many, but it was like Rod Morgenstein. You know, so I played
right.
with the Dregs. He played with
right. Rod was a great player. Yeah, he's great. What impressed me though about the list was the diversity of styles.
Absolutely,
it's impressive, and I'm always impressed in a musician. All my favorite session drummers are like Steve Gadd, who can sit in with Chick Corea and then sit in with Paul Simon. And it's equally at those levels. You know what I mean? He's not a slouch in either one. And that always impresses me. And even I saw Stevie Nicks on the list, which
well, okay, once again, you got to that would
right, I saw the parenthesis. I knew it was a parenthesis, but I wanted to know a little more about that story because many people don't know that she's in love with me.
Oh, really?
She may not be aware, right? Oh. Never actually met. But I've had several dreams and premonitions. So
she's actually, I believe she's a Phoenix gal originally, but and I think
So what's the total connection there?
That would be a bass player I was playing with out of Phoenix was her bass player.
Oh, all right.
Yeah. And she's from Phoenix, and or she lived there for a long time, or so. But yeah, he played bass with him and Waddy. He was a buddy of Waddy's, and Waddy got him in. So. Anyone, like I said, these great musicians that I've played with, right. I make sure I include them on the list. Is to show how good these guys are.
Well, and going through that list of the diversity of different styles that were on there, is there are you like me where I just love it all? If I'm playing, I mean, I've done polka gigs that I've really had a great time at, and I enjoy doing. And I'm not kidding about that.
I understand.
There was a regional guy. who used to come through Michigan. I can't remember his name. It was like 10 years ago. Was an accordion dude, and he would just call up a bass player and drummer, and then we would go do these like polka festivals with him. And I had a great time. It was like all the beer and kielbasa you could eat, right, and drink. And you'd be reading these charts of 3/2 polkas, and nothing ever. I never came back from a gig thinking, oh, that was terrible. Like I enjoyed it. So are you like me that way, or are there styles you prefer? Or
I mean, there's definitely stuff that I prefer, but I get into because being a session player, and I played on tons of commercials that everyone in at least the U.S. has heard, and some of them have been rock. I've had something. Oh, we're going to do a country thing today, or we're going to do a kind of a jazzy thing, whatever too. So, the turn of a dime, and I'm playing, and oddly enough, I did a polka record.
I need to get that record. We need to tour, right?
Well, my wife's father was a fairly prominent polka musician in Chicago, and the record was played on WLS in Chicago, and so he played accordion concertina, and so he put down all these concertina songs, and then I played acoustic guitar over top of it for him, and then he had someone else, and it was fun. I mean, I did. It kind of turned into gypsy jazz for me. I don't know he loved it. I don't know if the rest of the polka community loved it, but I kind of ended up playing like almost gypsy jazz on it. But
yeah. Yeah, when I was reading the charts of the polka guide, I was thinking more like up-tempo bebop, and I was just keeping that oompa, oompa, oompa going, because some of the tempos were like ridiculous.
Really fast.
And he was doing his thing.
Yes.
Thinking, this isn't easy. And I was, this isn't, like, kudos to the polka guys who do this all the time, playing at these tempos for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
There were no ballads in the set list.
When I moved out to, and even beforehand, I did a record with this great songwriter out of Detroit, Matt Morrow, and he was getting into what is, I guess they would call outlaw country. So that would be along the lines of Chris Stapleton and Sergio Simpson, that kind of stuff, I guess. And I had a telly, and I was doing, I put in a lot of time and learned the faux steel bends and stuff like that. I had a great time on that record. And then actually last weekend, and then when we moved to Arizona, I mean, there was like just playing around in bands or whatever. I mean, you had to play some country, even
right.
At least modern country. Once again, man, I played the telly and did a lot of faux steel bends and got, for quite a bit. In fact, I did my last gig was doing a fill-in last Saturday with a guy that's pretty much, and I was just doing all the faux steel bend stuff, and I had a great time. My wheelhouse would be funky jazz rock, prog thing like the Alan Hewitt and One Nation, and into the prog scene, more jazzy. That's like my solo album is like Latin jazz. My last solo album. That's probably where my real heart is. But I like it all.
So let's go back a little ways. So did you come from a musical family? Was your parents doing that?
Absolutely.
Did you play guitar? Did you do that? Or let's go through that story a little bit.
My mom was a singer, a professional singer before I was born even, and she could stand toe to toe with like Judy Garland and Barbra Streisand. She was that good, and she had a record contract offer. They were living in Chicago at the time. And with a major label, and she had a regional record out in Chicago, and it was going well. She was on TV, and a major label offered her a deal, but she said no. She already had my brothers and sisters. She'd have to go on the road. She goes, I can't do that. So she turned it down. And then I came along, and she was still doing like nightclub dates when I was a little kid. Of course, she sang in choirs and stuff, but she was still doing nightclub dates, and like if she couldn't get a sitter, because my dad worked nights too, and my brothers and sisters were already out of the house probably, and because they were way older than me, and she would take me to her gig with her, and stick me in the dressing room, put me on the couch, tell me to go to sleep. But of course, I would not go peek out the door. And I was like 5 years old watching her. And then my brothers, both of them, were musicians, and they had a band. It was one of the few white bands signed to Motown. So I grew up with that. Stevie Wonder played on their album. So here I am, like 12 years old, and here's my brothers have an album with Stevie Wonder playing piano on it, and that's what I was like, you know, indoctrinated with.
Wow. So when did you pick up the guitar?
Probably about 11, I think. I started out on drums, actually.
Oh, really? Really?
Yeah. Yes, and I got in probably 10 or 11 by the time I got like a good guitar. I think I had like a toy one when I was probably, you know, 6 years old, kind of. But my first guitar that I bought with birthday money, my first nylon string, was about 10 or 11.
So in your teenage years, because I remember my moment. I was in a garage band, you know, and we were doing Bad Company. We were doing Feel Like Making Love, I remember. And we had, and this young, I was like 14, 15. I was a shy guy. No one ever talked to me. And this young girl named Marcy asked me if I wanted to go to the mall after that. And I thought, okay, this is what I'm doing the rest of my life. That's it.
You got the girl cred out of it.
Yeah, it's obviously I've done it. You know, I always tell my students the music business is not for the faint of heart.
That's for sure.
You're going to have money. Sometimes you're not. You either do it because you love it or don't do it. But definitely my start was because of the females of our species who finally paid attention to me because I hit these things. So, so in your teenage years, can you think back at a moment where you thought, okay, I want to pursue this? Because it is definitely not the road most taken. It's definitely not that road.
Yes. I got to say that I knew it. I mean, it's almost like that's all I remember, once again, because of my brothers. And they were, you know, they went on tours, and they were like with, I'm trying to think of some of the bands, fairly prominent bands at the time. And they were, so it's like as long as I can remember, that's all I knew. And I knew it from a young age. That's all I wanted to do. I never had any other aspirations. I remember distinctly in, probably, it was sometime in junior high, I guess. At the time they called it junior high. I guess it's middle school now, because of our kids. I remember it was, I think, science or biology class. I was drawing a stage setup with PA and amplifiers and drums and lights, when we're supposed to be like, you know, it's, you know, and the teacher goes, Mr. King, what are you doing? And I'm like, can you show us all? And I'm like, no, you know. So I had to show up this drawing of, you know, this rock stage, of, you know, with a band on and gear and stuff on it. So that's, you know, that's where I was at.
and so what was your first that you would consider a professional gig, where you thought, okay, this is not amateur time anymore. Now I'm moving a little bit.
Yeah, that would have to be. I mean, you know, I did, and I had an odd upbringing. My dad did painting, house painting and stuff, and we lived in northern Michigan here, and so. Especially in those days, the products weren't, there wasn't a lot of work up here for, you know, so we would go to Florida during the winter. So I would literally change schools and go to school in Florida. And so I had gotten my first like kind of real band. I guess you'd call it garage band, but we ended up doing some gigs, you know, high school dance or junior high dance in civic centers. Teen Civic Center dance. We got paid for it. I guess those were, you know, fairly pro. I mean, but by the time I was 16, I was, you know, I wasn't even old enough to play in bars, but I got into a band up in northern Michigan here, and some of the guys were a little older, but we'd go and play bars when we were 16.
Oh yeah, yeah. When I coming up in New York, I had gotten myself some fake ID. And all my friends in high school were, you know, working McDonald's or Burger King or whatever. And but me, nutty me, because I was a good reader, I went to this dinner theater and I auditioned for drummer for Godspell. I saw a little ad in the Village Voice. Remember that newspaper?
Absolutely.
I answered the ad and I had fake ID because I knew you had to be 18, and I was like, I think I was barely 17. And so I get the gig, oddly enough, and I'm doing this like 5 nights a week in the dinner theater, and I'm making like for a high school kid like $200 a week. You know what I mean? Like, just playing the theater. But the joke on me, I thought, was when I turned 18, the director, I said to somebody, I said, yeah, I'm 18, finally, I don't need a fake ID anymore. And he overheard me and said, oh, yeah, I was waiting for that to happen. Now I'm going to have to pay what I pay everybody else. And I said, oh, you knew? He said, yeah, we knew. I never knew if I got the gig because I was cheaper or because I was good. So,
oh, that is hysterical. Oh, that's
yeah.
Well, my mom used to have to drive me, to gigs and stuff. I think even my first bar gig was 15. And she drove, she went in, she'd have to sit there and endure it, and but she was, then eventually I still wasn't old enough, but I think I'd been around enough. No one really cared or something. I don't know, because I just go in and no one even, was, but interesting. I lived in Manhattan in the mid 90s for a few years, and I lived at 91st between Lex and Park, Upper East Side. So where were you?
Well, I grew up, I was born in the Bronx, and later my family moved to Yonkers, if you know, suburb of New York. And then as soon as I got old enough, I moved to back to the Bronx. I really like the city. I like being in the, Bronx is one of those places, and there were still a lot of, and I hate to say this because there were still a lot of neighborhoods in the Bronx that were very Italian. And it's a terrible thing. It is, but I did take advantage of it. But where, if you had the right vowel ending, your last name ended with the right letter, you got better rent than if your name ended differently. And I did take advantage of that. But I mean, those are some of my favorite times of my life. Just living in New York and taking the subway and doing things, and even double parking, to get your stuff. I mean, there's that back in those days, and there was just a real New York City was the place to be all the time.
Yeah.
It's changed over the years, but then, I mean, there was so much happening, just so much going on. I remember even I got to go backstage a couple of times because Max Weinberg was taking some lessons with my teacher, Status, in New York, and I got to go backstage at the New Haven Coliseum and hang out with Bruce and the guys, and it was just such a thing. And then I ended up doing a lot of touring with various acts, Cherry Vanilla being the big one, who was with RCA Records. And I would go up and down the East Coast kind of with her and a couple of different acts. So it was just a good place to be. And the Bronx was just cheap enough so I could afford to pay my bills and, not be destitute,
Well, I ended up getting lucky. I had a sublet on a co-op through a friend of mine in Detroit, and for the Upper East Side, I mean, my neighbors were 2 streets down was Woody Allen and Kevin Kline, Cates. I mean, that's pretty. That's everyone's going, how do you afford to live up here? Well, I don't know why the guy gave us the place. I mean, for $1,200 a month, which is cheap, and it's a nice, a nice place. So when he decided he was going to sell the place, and we had to get out, and then I had to go look at what real rent was.
Right.
And so I said, that's it. And we headed back to Detroit. But you said the Village Voice. I got a gig out of the Village Voice on one of the house nights for a while at the Cafe Wah. There was an ad in the Village Voice, and I answered, went down, auditioned, and did that gig for a little bit. When I was
the Village Voice was one of those newspapers that had a lot of crazy things in it, but you could get work back then. I don't know. So it was a crazy. I remember there was a short little time when I was doing a lot of work with RCA Records, and I mean crazy work. Like I did, I may still be on them. All the sexual health or health classes in high school, all film strips. I was the drummer on the Boston store, right? And for RCA,
You just went. You got another knock over on.
And this was in the days, where it was beep and you went to the next clip, if you remember. And I remember looking at. I had it wasn't a sublet, it was a roommate situation in the Village on Spring Street, just for a little while because I was making really good money. And I remember getting up in the morning, looking out my window, and I swear to you, down on the street was Jim Henson, Frank Oz, in a little pull cart doing Kermit and Miss Piggy. And I thought, this is the only place in the world you could be at 5 a.m. to see this downstairs.
Yeah.
That's why, even though I moved to Detroit later for family reasons, New York is always a place for me that happens there.
Yeah.
I'm sure it could happen in Detroit, but it happens in New York, or at least it did all the time.
Yeah.
Cool,
very cool.
Anyway, let's move on to the thing that I know people will be very interested in, is the Moody Blues connection. I came to them later in life. I grew up with the prog rock thing. I was always practicing to Yes and Emerson, Lake and Palmer and all that kind of stuff. And for whatever it was, I didn't come to Moody Blues till later. They were more like the pop and the classical, where Yes was doing a lot of more odd meter stuff, and that was really intriguing me. And but then later on, I really started to appreciate how Moody Blues was really putting those things together, those classical pieces with the pop genre. Yeah. So how do you wind up with that gig? Who do you meet? How does that whole thing work out for you?
Yeah, well, yeah, the same thing with, my sister introduced me to the Moody Blues as a little kid. She played it, so I knew, a lot of their songs, from hearing it and their album covers and that. But I guess they were like the forefathers of prog. They're called like the grandfathers of prog. They started that, and then Yes and ELP took that and went further. And in the prog genre, they are respected for that, and that's why we not last summer, because I just write last summer off. The last summer that Life happened, I was on tour with Yes, Carl Palmer's ELP Legacy, and Asia. And so we did a package tour all across the country, and so it was a prog tour, so
right. Wait, so I gotta stop you right there. So you got to hang with Carl Palmer
every day.
Oh, he was my major idol growing up.
Oh yeah.
Man.
He's a cool guy. He's every day. We eat breakfast, lunch, and dinners pretty much every day with hang out.
Now 1 degree away from.
There you go. Yeah, pretty much. We lived together almost in a way. We were family. All the bands for 2 months.
Who was working with Yes on that tour?
That would be Jeffrey Downs on keyboards on this round. Alan White, and but they had an auxiliary drummer because Alan White had such bad back problems. He had surgeries, so he could only do a few songs. So a drummer named Jay Schellen, he's a LA kind of hotshot guy. So they would trade off. So Jay would play maybe some of the longer pieces, because some of their songs are 20 minutes long. And then Alan would come up and do Roundabout and
right.
Maybe short, and then he'd step off, and then Jay would come back up. And then on bass, because Chris Squire died, Billy Sherwood was on bass. Now Billy's been involved with Yes for 25 years or more, and actually Chris Squire asked Billy to take his place and keep, so Yes could keep going almost on his deathbed, I guess.
Wow.
So that was the Yes configuration. Yeah.
So back to Moody Blues. So how did that whole thing come
So
to be for you?
Alan Hewitt from
Right.
Alan Hewitt One Nation.
Who you working on a disc now with, right? Or is that's done and coming out, right?
We're halfway through the album, but we released our first album in 2015. That's one Sonny Emery was on.
All right.
And JV Collier on bass, and also Jamie Glazer and I were both on guitar. So, and Jamie's played with, Chick Corea and Jean-Luc Ponty and John Anderson from Yes, and JV Collier's played with, oh my gosh, Herbie Hancock. The list goes on. But that was the first iteration. This is the second iteration, which it also includes the Moody Blues drummer Billy Ashbaugh and John Lodge. So it's all kind of, mixed up a little bit. But Alan Hewitt is from Petoskey, by the way.
Right. I read that.
Him and I have known each other since we were teenagers. He had a band, I had a band, and we would play, there was only so many places to play, but we would have these festivals out in the fields here. We just build a stage or pull up 2 flatbed hay wagons, and all the bands would bring their gear, and then we just have these like festivals. So that's how I met Alan, and we just became buddies. And then he went to Berkeley after high school, and then I went to Central, and then I ended up in Detroit. He ended up back up north here after Berkeley, and he actually was playing drums, but as a drum student, you have to play piano.
Right.
So he knew, but he was a drummer. So the band I was in Detroit needed a drummer, and I heard so I called him up. I said, hey, you want to come and play drums in this band? So that we became like musical brethren in all these years. So he went to LA, ditched drums and became full-time keyboards, and then became, pretty well known in the LA scene. Then gets a call from his manager that Moody Blues were looking for a keyboard player. And so he gets the gig, and we're doing the first One Nation album. Then John Lodge wants to do his own Moody Blues thing. I'm not going to get into all that stuff, but at any rate, you know how that goes. All the iterations start happening. At any rate, so he takes Alan and the drummer, Billy, and then wants to do his own group. And, so he already had basically a group. And Alan called me and asked me if I wanted to play guitar in it. So that's kind of how it all came together. But all the way back from our 15-year-old friends.
That's really cool. The way that circle sort of like completed itself. The Detroit, LA, and yet the circle gets completed. That's very cool. I know that when, although I have enjoyed playing everything, and I did cruise ships for 7 years or 8 years, and of course on that kind of, in the orchestra you play a different style every night and all that kind of stuff. But I've always been a big classic rock fan, or anything that fits into that genre, from Yes or Emerson, Lake and Palmer to Springsteen and that kind of stuff. I've always enjoyed that style. And when I got to work with Dick Wagner, and that was the thing here, I knew Ray Goodman very well.
Yeah.
And I worked with him on a couple of solo projects, and I was in the studio. And then Dick's guy couldn't make it, the one for some tour on like 3 gigs. And then I went and I just filled in for the 3 gigs. But because I didn't know any better, I just learned the stuff like the record. And so I got to the rehearsal and I just played like the Welcome to My Nightmare stuff, just like it was done on the album. And Dick said in rehearsal, he looks at me and he goes, no one's played it that way in like 15 years. And, well, I'll do it any way you want. I just wanted the gig. I said, I just didn't know I like the record. He said, no, you want the gig? I just rather work with you than the rest of the tour. And that was it. I just played the record licks that were there. Yeah. I honored them, and Johnny Bedanchek was on a lot of it. And like the stuff was good. And I didn't want to mess with it. Hey, that's an iconic material. And then later on, when I got to work with Mark Farner through Dick, the same thing. I felt that touch. And I want to just talk about some of your feelings about that, because you've got to work with some great people. And just that, like the first time you get to hang with Carl Palmer, the first time you get to hang with some of those guys. Let's talk about that a little bit, because to be honest with you, when I first did the first show with Mark Farner, and he's doing, I'm getting closer to your home, and I actually got choked up.
Yeah.
On stage, and we were at the Fillmore, and they've got their lighters, and they're all singing this, and I'm thinking, and we did a dual drummer thing just because it was a spur of the moment. Danny Seraphine was on my left playing with me, and we're playing this together. And Danny Seraphine, who's another one of my heroes,
yep.
I'm like, okay, if I were to pass away right now, I'm good. I'm good, So I get to, I'm not a believer, but if St. Peter said, well, you didn't live that good of a life, I said, that's all right. I just played with Danny Seraphine and Mark Farner. You want to say me the hell? Go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's I've played with so many people that it's over the years but with John Lodge in particular, with that, and that brings, these guys are in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and they're like mega stars,
Right.
They're like real icons, and it is, sometimes I go, wow, it's bizarre that here I am on stage singing a rock and roll band that I've heard since I was 10 years old, and playing with the guy that wrote it and sang it, and it's surreal. And
Right.
it is, and
Right.
I feel very grateful for it. And then when I was on tour with Yes and Carl Palmer, and these are the guys, those records and cassettes and vinyls that's all I listened to for quite a while, actually. And here I am, eating dinner with Steve Howe, the guy I worshipped, and stuff like that every day. And Carl Palmer, hey mate, how you doing, Duffy? It was like, wow, it's bizarre.
By the way, as a side note, some of my favorite guitarists ever, Steve Howe's at the top of the list.
Oh, absolutely.
Amazing. And as of recently, my last little instructional video on my channel has been an Oz Noy. I took his version of Oz. I got to meet Oz when I was in a couple of years ago. He's another incredible. He's not one of us. He's like from a different planet. He's just he does things with meter that are just crazy, but they're cool.
Yeah.
They're very, very, very cool. And so let's talk about your solo projects a little bit too. Now you did some acoustic solo?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's called Acoustically Speaking. Oops, hold on. I was going to wear this, but.
All right.
But I didn't want to be too. But I thought it might. Actually,
That's okay.
It goes up backward. Is it forward or backward?
Oh, I like that. I like that shirt. Can you get that shirt? I get the shirt?
Absolutely. I'll get you. What are you? What are you? Double X? Single X?
Yeah. Double X. Double X.
I'll get one to you.
All right.
My wife is the artist for that.
That's a way cool image. That is definitely.
By that made it through. That was the artwork was submitted for the and was voted on at the Grammys too. That goes to committee, but it's cool. So that's Acoustically Speaking, and it's all acoustic, obviously. Once again, like you said, I can play so many different genres, and oddly enough, when I was in Arizona for that time, it was even more so acoustic stuff, and I was doing a lot of, especially when I first got there, I didn't know anybody, so I was just doing tons of acoustic stuff, and my wife is a flamenco dancer.
Oh,
so she actually had started inundating me with this flamenco, which is great guitar. Of course, I always loved like Paco de Lucia and stuff like that, and we had she was asked to do a gig, I guess that's what dancers call it, for for a convention and wanted, she goes, "Can you play this stuff?" I said, "Well, can you play music for me?" So I said, "Oh." So she took me to a flamenco show, and I just sat and listened. And of course, I played nylon string forever, but I wanted to absorb, a little more.
Right.
And I came home from that show, and I sat down and wrote 2 songs like that off my head just from being. And she was like, "Oh my God, they're perfect." But I wrote songs to play for her performance, so I didn't have to learn someone else's.
Right.
And so it kind of took off more from there, and it started snowballing. And before I knew it, I had an album's worth of stuff. So that's and then she's a visual artist, obviously, and so I thought it appropriate that she started the album concept. She should do the artwork for it.
It's way cool. That's a really cool shirt. I like it a lot. It's just because I don't know, the images together. I think it would people would stop you if you were wearing that shirt.
Yeah. I just got I got a rough cut last night. So when I wrote one of the songs called Samba del Sonoran, when I wrote it and started recording it, and then we came back to Michigan, but I had a vision for the song, how it builds, of being on this mountain, playing the song that's right, we live right at the base of a mountain, Black Mountain. And I wasn't able to get all the filming and everything together. So this time when I was out, I was able to shoot that video, and I saw a rough cut of it last night. It's amazing. And I'm going to do a video release party for it, or viewing, whatever, in a couple of weeks.
All right. So on the at least a couple more things we got to talk about. I promised. I know we have a mutual friend, Greg Nagy.
Yes.
And I got to read this. He told me that I would read this. I want to. How you met Greg Nagy, who I think we would both agree is one of the greatest songwriters of our time and any time before or after. He's asked me to say that, and so actually, I'm just kidding. He's gonna watch this, so I wanted to hear me say that. By the way, I hope the check is in the mail. So
that's awesome, and that is so
Hey, next time you talk to him, ask him about the golf course in his basement. So
okay, I will.
I tease him about it all the time. How'd you meet up with him and work with him a little bit?
Through the Lansing boys, Steve Ferrari and all those guys. I actually took Greg's place at the Green Door in Lansing, and I don't know.
With the Root Doctor or somebody else?
No, with Acme Jam.
Oh, okay.
And, but some of the guys from Root Doctor were playing in it. Like eventually, Jimmy sat in with us a few times and filled in. But Root Doctor drummer Johnny B, for a while, he was not. Another Johnny B, drummer.
Right.
I don't know if you knew Johnny B or not, but
no, I know the other Johnny B from Dick Wagner.
Yeah, right. But so Johnny Barrera from Lansing. But so he was in Root Doctor too, as well as James Williams on bass was from Root Doctor. So once again, all this incestuous stuff going on. So Greg went, I don't know what he went. Oh, he may have moved to North Carolina at that time.
All right.
North Carolina for a while. So I took his place, but I'd been seeing him and I filled in for him a couple times on other things, but and then we became buds. And oddly enough, and I believe I'm going to. We've now, I believe, played together on a record.
Oh, okay. He told me a little bit about that. That he decided to use your tracks on something he was doing or something.
Yeah. And you played drums on it. So
yeah, I think we're both because I'm probably on drums on that. So
yeah, no, that's what I mean. I think we're together.
Yeah. His whole last CD. Well, I'm on the Stranded for a couple of tracks.
Yeah.
I'm doing this whole new one.
Yeah, it's a song on the new one. He actually just sent me a thing. He goes, him and I have been I was writing lyrics because I'm recording another solo album right now, and it's kind of a funky blues rock thing, and it's probably half done. That maybe more than half. But I was stuck on a song lyric wise, so yes, he's the greatest songwriter in the world.
Yeah, yeah. He told me he helped you out on a few lyrics and stuff.
And so he worked with me on some lyrics for this song, and so then he in turn sent me this song. He goes, I'm kind of stuck on what to play guitar wise on this song. So I just played some ideas and sent it to him, and he liked it, and it looks like it's going to be on it. So, you know.
Well, you know, ever since the Stranded, I came in, I had to fix something, and then that he had done, and then I recorded some other stuff with him, and then we ended up doing the I don't know if you had heard the Beatles thing we did together for a little while, Abbey Road 2.0.
I think I saw a live clip.
Yeah. I had penned some arrangements because I went to Berklee College of Music.
Oh, okay, yeah.
You know, like a drummer's thing, I would never do piano on a gig, but I have, you know, writer's chops.
Correct.
I do arrangements stuff on the piano, so I had some ideas, and he ended up helping me put that together. And then, so we've just worked together kind of consistently whenever he's working, and then the pandemic, of course, has taken everyone. And so we did even a couple of video live streams with Jim Alfredson.
Yeah.
So that's always been fun.
Yeah. We can't forget Alan Hewitt and One Nation, the other big project I'm in. And, you know,
oh, yes.
We're in the middle of recording our album. We've got a couple of videos. To get a chance to check out our videos.
Yes, matter of fact, Melissa sent me some links.
Have a couple videos, and we're getting ready to release the album hopefully end of summer, early fall, you know, with Billy Ashbaugh drums, and David C. Johnson on bass. He's originally a Detroiter, but he lives in Florida now, but he plays with Neville Brothers. And so I mean it's another, and the music is just a blast to play.
Oh yeah. Hey, so is Alan Hewitt are you gonna tour with him when that finally comes?
Yes. In fact, I just got off the phone with him. Now that things are opening up, we're already starting to inquire about. We're trying maybe putting something together in the fall. We're looking at some stuff in the fall, and then for sure in the spring we have the John Lodge tour in the spring, and then going right into a One Nation tour right after that. So that's what we're working on, because we're going to be playing a floating Prague festival called Cruise to the Edge. And you know, they have these big music festivals on cruise ships now.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's good. It was canceled last year and this year. So for 2022, we're going to be on it. And so
that's cool.
Then we'll use that as an anchor and book, you know, a southern tour around that. And then we're supposed to be playing what's called Prague Stock. That's in New Jersey in the fall. And then we're going to try to use that as an anchor and book Midwest, East Coast stuff on that. That's the plan, if everything, you know, how that all works.
You know, on this little thing, we try to talk about everything, not only music, but just things that are life. And so the pandemic, I mean, you know, even at my level, which I do make most of my income from teaching, and then of course there are the tours and the Dick Wagners and stuff like that. But you know, switching over to Zoom, I really not only got hurt financially, but I realized how much playing like is more than what I do. It's like who I am, you know. And when the playing was taken away, you start to not realize, wow, like I don't feel like Glenn right now because I'm not able to play. And even now, I, you know, kind of 2 or 3 times a month, mostly with Tasha Owens. I think you know her. She's like, she's my main Detroit diva that I work with, you know, and we went from working 3 times a week to 3 times a month, maybe now, right? That's what I'm doing. And man, it's just emotionally. So I coped with it by meditation. You know, I started doing a whole bunch of things. I ended up started collecting vinyl. I bought a turntable. I don't know how that makes me feel better, but it does. I'm holding the records again. You know,
I like that.
so yeah, I really do like vinyl. But so for other musicians coping through this, what was your coping mechanism through the pandemic?
Well, I knew it's oddly enough, I was on tour, and we had a good tour. It was a fairly long one, and I got home on March 10th, and I had gigs already booked for, you know, the following week, I think, and March 15th, right? And so I heard it was going to happen, and so I told my wife, I said, and we were in Detroit, I said, let's get up to our place on Burt Lake because it's going to be a lot more chill there, you know, and it's going to be a little, you know, it's not going to be as much stress. So we came up here. So that was a different, you know, headspace or whatever right away, being on this beautiful lake, you know. So that helped. And the fact that there was a ton of stuff to do on the house. So
Right.
So I'm power washing the house. I'm putting the dock in and the boat in, you know, all that kind of stuff kind of kept me busy. Then there's a lot of wineries, outdoor restaurant breweries with outdoor spaces that I was able to do my solo gigs. So that being able to take a guitar and play a show gave me a leg up. So I'm playing outdoors, big spaces at wineries and stuff. So I was able to do, it wasn't like a pounded schedule, but I was able to play a couple times a week through the summer and at least play. Once the weather changed, then it was a whole different ball game. Then I kind of, but I started working on recording. I mean, the Allen Hewitt One Nation, we were recording. I started focusing more on my solo album. So that was kind of good. You know, I made use of that, but, you know, so I got to say that outside of catching COVID, if I wouldn't have caught COVID, I would have been fine. But
you ended up catching it, eh?
Yeah. So
was it bad for you, or was it okay? Was it the mild?
It was pretty bad. You know, I had some side effects I had to deal with, but it was like a really bad flu. But I didn't have, but oddly enough, of course, the One Nation guys, we had this virtual prog stock, so it was a virtual concert, but we all had to be together. So I
watched a part of that. It was really good.
So we all met at the studio. Well, not everybody was as conscientious, I guess, about masking and stuff. It was down in Florida, so I'll leave it at that. So most of us got it. And so and then it went through my house. My wife got it. Our son got it. So then that's when it really got dark around here. It got dark for a few months. And then we went to Arizona and it helped. Because then I could play outdoors there. So I was able to do some shows.
Yeah. I look back at your schedule. You did a bunch of those acoustic shows that are still up, and I thought that was really cool that you were able to keep playing.
Yeah.
On the positive side is I got to practice a lot of stuff for myself that I'd been putting off.
Yeah.
So because I had time, there was a lot of like Vinnie Colaiuta licks that I never worked on because the mainstay of my gigs didn't call for it, and I was always learning tunes for the next show. So I would, then I thought, let me work on that one. Let me work on that one. We'll see if it shows up in my playing yet. We'll see if that happens, But I did take out one of them in a solo. Almost got it. I did a show with Ray Goodman about 2 weeks ago.
Oh, Billy's?
Yeah, up at Billy's. Yeah, Billy's. It was Ray, myself, Philip Hale.
Yeah.
Dennis Burr showed up for it, and Check on bass, and Tasha sang for most of it. And Ray always throws me a solo, and I did take out one of the new Caliuta licks. It was close. It was close. It was close. It was close. So I got to try it now. So anyway, the whole purpose of this, I started this thing in the pandemic because I was bored to tears.
Yeah.
And I got the idea of, well, I don't want to just do instructional videos like that. God forbid we have one more instructional video on. Oh my goodness.
On YouTube, yeah.
Anybody who's ever held a drumstick is doing an instructional video on YouTube. Yeah, and I don't mind doing it, but it's kind of like making me a small fish in a big ocean of a lot of other fish. And not many guys are doing the interviews, and I thought I knew just enough people through Dick Wagner, and I've had Sandy Gennaro, which was because he played with the Monkees.
Cyndi Lauper. I saw him with Cyndi Lauper.
Oh, yeah, he played with Cyndi Lauper, too. We talk about that. I've had Andy Basford, a guitar player, who worked with Sting and Shaggy. That was really cool. And I used to, in New York, I played with his rock band.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, when I went back to New York to visit my dad, he has Alzheimer's. He booked me for some shows again, and so we did some of his rock shows. So it was cool. So I just said, well, I'm going to do this and interview guys that I know that are. I call us we're the trench diggers.
You got it.
We're the trench diggers because maybe a ton of people like they know Sting or Springsteen. Maybe they don't know us, but. And like I always say, I'm never really worried about the guy in the audience liking me. I'm only worried if Greg Nagy likes me, you know what I mean? Because he's going to hire me again, or Wagner likes me. It's nice if the audience people like me, but I'm more worried about them liking me. And then that's like because I need to get hired again. But I wanted to do this channel for us guys and let the up and comer realize, okay, it's not easy. You can make a living doing it. You can do it. It's not the easiest. You got to do all the genres. Teaching helps. Whatever you can think of to do, you got to do it, right? It's not one lane. If you get lucky and you get in a band like Aerosmith, well, God bless you, but that's a very rare instance.
Yep. Even more rare now.
Any more Moody Blues work coming up?
Yeah, we've got we just released a single about a week ago, I think it was. All right.
That's all right. We'll edit it out.
Oops, and I hit the wrong button. Sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah, we just released a single about a week ago.
All right.
And that's going to be on a new album that's coming out. We're doing a live album plus. A live album plus. So it's going to be from the Royal Affair tour, the tour with Yes in Asia and Carl Palmer. And then it's going to be some tracks that we put together during the pandemic. So that's coming out. I thought September, but maybe I'm not sure when it's coming out. But tour-wise, we're playing one of those concert cruises with, let's see who's on it. Zombies, Guess Who, a long list. Procol Harum. Oh my gosh, I just saw the list. There's a lot of people, and we're doing one of those in April. And so the cruises are kind of an anchor date, and then you build a land tour around it. So that'll be March into April. And like I said, then the One Nation cruise is like the first week, the prog rock cruise is the first week of May. So then we'll go right into doing One Nation through May.
That's cool. So it looks like it's starting to open up for you, and that's a good thing. Yeah. Getting back to work. So I really appreciate you doing this for me.
A lot of fun, brother.
And I hope you had a little bit of fun. We had a little laugh, and I'll put it up, and I'll link you to it in usually takes me a week or two to get all that stuff done.
Cool.
Because I try to make it look like a show, like I'm here. And of course, I always say this, especially now, you run into anybody that needs a drummer, like one of those classic rock acts, I'll audition. You can tell them that I'm the best looking drummer you've ever seen. That's my.
Oh, very good. No, well, back at you if you know. Hey, I'm
Oh yeah, yeah.
I'm a mercenary, gun for hire too, pretty much. You know,
Yeah.
but I do it all, and
My-
make sure everyone check me out, DuffyKing.com for all the stuff I'm doing.
I'll send them all to you, and the 5
Please,
people that watch this channel will love it. So, and actually, the channel's starting to grow, and it's actually because of this. You know, even
Nice.
Even when I had the tour that I'm supposed to go on with Miggy in July, we'll probably have Donnie Brown on it as well from the Verve.
Yeah, nice.
So, so when he did an interview, and we sat and we talked about the freshmen and how that's lasted the rest of time and all that kind of stuff, and that's cool. So I really appreciate you doing this. I'm glad you're back in Detroit. Maybe we'll get to work together sometime soon. It'd be kind of fun.
Yeah,
You never know. You never know. The music business is crazy.
you got that right.
Yeah, and crazier now. So, all right. Thank you very much, and I'll link you to this in about 2 weeks.
Cool, man. Peace, brother.
Bye.